What is happening today was predicted by a professor 30 years ago. And no, it wasn't this pretend professor. Before I reveal who this professor was, I first want to go over a few terms. First, you have probably heard the term multipolar, and that we are moving into a multipolar world. Or you've heard the term unipolar, as in the US had reached a unipolar moment after the fall of the Soviet Union, and we were the only global superpower. But have you heard of the term unimultipolar? Probably not, but that term was coined by Professor Samuel Huntington in 1998. He was a Harvard professor, and he published an article with the American Enterprise Institute coined and titled A Unimultipolar World? And in it, it describes almost exactly how President Trump's New World Order is shaping out. And in this article, he describes the lone superpower, the United States, the other major powers, the middle powers, and even the global south. And I took some notes on it that I'm going to kind of read to you now. And I've broken this out into levels. And so in level 1, you have the superpower, which is the United States. And the capabilities, which are still unmatched today, are global military reach, naval power, financial systems, dollar dominance, technological leadership, and global alliance networks. And this is described, again, all of these are described in his article. At level 2, you have the major regional powers. These are the ones that dominate their regions, but they can't project global power like the US. And I've cited it many times, like China, for example, India, EU, Germany and France, Russia, and of course, Iran. Now, he also threw Brazil in there to cover, the entire parts of the globe. And in his article, he describes how these powers tend to push back against United States influence. Level 3, you have the secondary regional powers, and these are countries that fear the regional giants and often seek U.S. partnership. Examples today would be Japan, South Korea, even Vietnam, Poland, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Philippines, Australia, and we're seeing this unfold in real time with the current U.S.-Israel-Iran war. He describes how this dynamic is incredibly important. These states frequently invite U.S. power into their region to balance their large neighbors. And then he predicted the anti-hegemonic or anti-U.S. influence powers like the global south or current-day Russia. He predicted that the resentment of U.S. power could lead to coalitions trying to counterbalance it. Sound familiar? And today we are seeing these attempts with China-Russia alignment, the BRICS expansion, which is not really anything, the Iran-Russia-China cooperation, and the attempts to weaken the dollar system. And these regional powers, they want multipolarity. This is why you constantly hear the term a multipolar world, because the media is pushing it, because China and Russia are pushing it. You hear such other terms as like the end of Western dominance and the global South leadership. And this is exactly what he would predict that these powers would advocate for. And despite what the media and some of these geopolitical experts today would have you believe, America still values and pursues leadership through NATO, Indo-Pacific alliances, global financial institutions. We still have a military presence in 70-plus countries with over 750 U.S. bases. None of this has changed, and yet this was all predicted in his article. He referred to a U.S.-centered coalition system, and right now you see that unfolding with NATO expansion, the AUKUS, the Quad, the U.S.-Japan, South Korean alignment, the U.S.-Philippines military expansion. So what you're seeing unfold on the global stage today is something looking less and less like a multipolar world and something more like a unimultipolar coalition, obviously led by the United States. That's what he describes in his article. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read a passage for you from his article, and you let me know in the comments whether this sounds familiar or not. I'm also going to provide a little commentary. So, and I quote, "In this unimultipolar world, the central relationship is that between the superpower and the major regional powers. Neither side is entirely happy with that relationship. The superpower would prefer a unipolar world and is continually tempted to act as if it were a unipolar world." And that's kind of what we're seeing unfold right now with basically the strong arming from President Trump as he shapes his new world order. Continuing on. The major powers would prefer a multipolar world and believe global politics is moving in that direction. And you've heard this time and again from media pundits and political leaders probably over the last 10, 15 years. A unimultipolar world is stable only to the extent that these conflicting poles can be balanced. In the longer term, they probably cannot be balanced, and if, as seems probable, the superpower cannot create a unipolar world, global politics will gradually evolve in the direction of a multipolar system. Now, he goes on in depth to describe exactly what he means by this, and I highly encourage everybody to go Google it, go read it. The title is in this TikTok, And it basically describes what is happening today. I would actually argue that what we are currently seeing shape is a UNA multipolar world led by the United States, even post-Trump. I don't think we're ever going to move into a true multipolar world, or at least how they've defined it, where these regional poles have their hegemonic regional influence and neither one bothers the other. I think there's going to be a lot of interoperability, and you're going to see this alliance led by the United States stretching from NATO all the way to the Indo-Pacific, counterbalancing China in this new hyper Cold War. Anyways, let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Have a good day.